A bankrupt businessman lets a boy sleep in his restaurant for one night. The next morning, he is astonished to see what the boy had done there. Toby stood in front of the main door of his restaurant, Toby's Corner Table, a small corner establishment on an almost deserted street. It was late at night, and rain fell heavily, causing puddles to spread across the uneven sidewalk. As he turned the heavy key in the lock, a feeling of despondency spread through his chest. The wooden chairs were already stacked on the tables, the interior lights dimmed to a yellowish hue, and the smell of spices, garlic, and onion that once permeated the air now seemed more subdued and tired. Toby had always been a man proud of his work. His restaurant had been around for over 20 years. He had built everything with effort and dedication, going through busy times and difficult ones. But in recent months, sales had plummeted. Loyal customers disappeared. Business dwindled. The economic crisis, rumors about the quality of his ingredients, and sheer bad luck had collaborated to reduce his revenue to a fraction of what it once was. Now, facing the rain, the darkness, and the silence of the street, Toby felt that perhaps it was all coming to an end. It wasn't just a bad night. It was the real possibility of bankruptcy, the fear of losing the only livelihood he knew and that defined who he was. He sighed, wiping his hands on his oil and sauce-stained apron, unsure whether to leave it inside the restaurant or take it with him. He opted to leave it hanging on the hook near the door. It wasn't worth taking. The next day might not even bring the need to cook if customers didn't show up. Toby took one last look at the empty tables. The counter, once filled with jars of seasoned flour, salads, and side dishes, now presented a melancholic aspect with a simple cash register and a grimy napkin holder. As he turned to lock the door, he noticed a figure huddled under the awning of the neighboring building. The heavy rain made it difficult to see, but it only took a moment for Toby to realize it was a boy, perhaps a teenager. At first, he thought the boy was just waiting for the rain to pass, but then he noticed the sparse, wet hair, the thin shirt, the dirty pants, and the lost gaze. He seemed to have nowhere to go. Toby approached carefully, stepping in puddles. The water wet the hem of his pants and ran down his eyebrows into his eyes. He neared the boy, who flinched a little, suspicious, pulling his knees against his chest to try to protect himself from the rain that, even under the awning, still hit him sideways. "Hey, kid. What are you doing out here at this hour?" Toby asked, his voice hoarse but not hostile. The boy lifted his head, his tired brown eyes observing him. He seemed to be gauging whether Toby was trustworthy or just another indifferent adult. After a moment's hesitation, he answered in a low tone. "Nothing. Just here. I've got nowhere to go." The answer hit Toby like a slow punch to the stomach. There were so many children on the streets, each with their untold story and hidden wounds. The man looked around as if searching for some explanation. The rain continued, the cold wind making breathing difficult, and few lights remained on in the windows of the buildings across the street. "What's your name?" Toby asked, trying not to let too much compassion show in his voice, unsure why he cared so much. "Raphael," the boy replied, still huddled. Toby took a step forward, trying not to seem threatening. "Do you live around here, Raphael?" Raphael looked away, pressing his lips together. "Not anymore. My dad kicked me out. My mom drinks a lot, and he uses stuff. My home it was hell. Today they told me to fend for myself on the street. So, I came here." Toby felt a lump in his throat. The boy was 13? Maybe younger. He seemed so young. To be out in the rain that night, abandoned like that, was too cruel. A mixture of restrained anger and sadness took hold of the man. He scratched his chin thoughtfully. He didn't have much to offer. His restaurant barely sustained itself now. But the image of the boy there, alone in the rain, was unbearable. "Listen, Raphael," he said, slightly opening the restaurant door, the same one he had just locked. "Why don't you come in for a bit? It's cold. I just closed up, but there's a little spot in the back where you can spend the night. Tomorrow, we'll figure something out." Raphael's eyes widened in surprise. You're not going to make me work or anything, are you? The suspicion was understandable. On the street, many wanted to exploit. No, no, Toby replied with a negating gesture, his voice firm. I just want you to have a dry place to sleep tonight. You don't have to do anything. Come on, before we catch a cold. Still hesitant, Raphael stood up. Toby noticed the boy's thinness, his worn clothes, the expression of someone carrying a weight too heavy for his young age. They entered the restaurant together, the sound of the rain muffled by the walls, the yellowish light illuminating the empty space. Toby locked the door again, this time from the inside, and led the boy to the back. They passed through the kitchen, where hanging pots gleamed faintly even in the dim light. The tiled floor, wet from their shoe soles, creaked under their steps. In the small service area, there was an almost empty pantry, a few boxes, and a nearby closet. Next to it was a tiny room, previously used by an employee who helped with cleaning in better years, but now serving to store old things. Here, Toby said, opening the door to the narrow room. Inside, there was a single bed pushed against the wall, semi-dismantled, with an old mattress covered by a worn sheet. The man approached, straightening the mattress and dusting off the sheet. There was a slight smell of mildew, but it was an enclosed, dry place, and better than the drenched street. Raphael stood at the entrance, unsure if he could really come in. Toby, noticing the boy's embarrassment, tried to smile a little, even without much enthusiasm. You can lie down, son. It's simple, but it should do for you to rest tonight. I can't guarantee much more than this, but at least you won't sleep in the rain. Thanks, Raphael murmured, approaching the bed, touching the mattress carefully as if checking the reality of the scene. I never imagined someone would let me sleep in a place like this. Toby shrugged, walking to a shelf at the back of the room. He took an old blanket, somewhat frayed at the edges, and handed it to Raphael. It's nothing fancy, but it'll keep you warm. Tomorrow morning, when I open up, we'll talk more, okay? Raphael pulled the blanket with trembling hands, saying nothing for a few seconds, just looking at the floor. Then he sat on the bed and slowly settled down, stretching his legs. Thanks, mister. He paused, perhaps not knowing the man's name. Toby. My name is Toby, the man said with a nod. You don't need to call me, mister. I feel old enough without it. Raphael almost smiled. Okay, Toby. Thanks, really. Toby sighed, looking at the boy as he settled under the blanket. The silence of the empty restaurant weighed on them, but somehow, it was a less hostile silence than the one outside in the drenched, cold world. He thought about his own financial situation, the despair he felt with the restaurant doing poorly. Still, he couldn't see any other course of action than to help this boy. Tomorrow, he would think about the consequences. Think about how not to leave the boy there forever. After all, Toby could barely support himself. But tonight was a given. The boy needed shelter, and Toby couldn't deny it. Well, I'm heading out, Raphael, he said, adjusting the doorknob of the small room. Sleep well. Good night, Toby, the boy replied, calmer now, his head resting on the old foam pillow. Toby turned off the light in the room, leaving only the faint glow of an improvised lamp in the hallway. He passed through the silent kitchen, the smell of food now a ghost, reminding him of the lack of customers. He went back to the main door, took his key, turned off all the lights in the main dining area, and opened the door to leave. He felt the damp air on his face again. The rain persisted, though a little less intense. The street remained deserted, the puddles reflecting the yellowish lights of the lampposts. He carefully locked the door, checked the lock once more, and then walked away, his steps slow, heading towards his home, alone, his head full of worries, but leaving behind a boy now sheltered from the rain. When Toby returned to his restaurant the next morning, the sun was already illuminating the simple facade and the slightly faded sign. The night's rain had disappeared, leaving the street damp and the air slightly fresh. He unlocked the door carefully, his heart heavy with the uncertainties of the day. He didn't expect much business, and the worry about his finances still tormented him. Upon entering, however, he noticed something different. He crossed the main dining room and saw that the chairs were all aligned, the tables neatly arranged, the napkins impeccably organized. The floor, which previously had footprints and old stains, now shone with a cleanliness he hadn't seen in a long time. Even the windows were gleaming, without the dull dust that used to blur the view of the street. For a moment, Toby thought he had entered the wrong restaurant. "Good morning," said a young voice echoing from the corner of the room. Toby turned towards the voice and found Raphael standing near the counter, a dishcloth hanging over his shoulder, his hands still slightly damp. The boy had a shy smile on his face, his hair disheveled, and he wore the same clothes as the day before, though a bit cleaner. "Raphael, did you do all this?" Toby asked, surprised, approaching. The daylight made the room feel more welcoming, and the man's expression was one of genuine admiration. "Yes, Mr. Toby. I woke up early, looked for cleaning supplies in the back, and gave the place a once-over. I wanted to thank you for letting me stay here last night. I didn't know how to thank you, so I thought I'd leave everything organized," the boy explained, fidgeting with the cloth on his shoulder. Toby ran his hand over the counter. No dust, no grease, as if it had just been polished. "Kid, you did quite a job. The restaurant hasn't looked like this in months. Not even my employees have done such a thorough cleaning." Raphael smiled shyly, his eyes shining a little. I wanted to help. I don't have much to offer, but if I can be useful." The man studied him for a moment. He was still worried about his financial situation, still feared the future, but seeing the restaurant clean, feeling the boy's effort and gratitude, brought him a small relief in his chest. "Raphael, I said you could stay for the night. But if you really have nowhere else to go, you can stay a bit longer, as long as you don't mind that little room in the back," Toby said, pointing in the direction where the boy had spent the night. "It's simple, but it's better than the street." Raphael, who could barely contain his joy, nodded quickly, his face lighting up. "Really? Wow, I thank you so much. I don't even know what to say. I really have nowhere to go, and last night was the first time I slept properly in months." Toby gave a discreet smile. "Then it's settled. But let's take it slow. I'll think of a way to sort this out calmly, little by little." The restaurant staff began to arrive. One of them, Kyle, the 33-year-old waiter, was the first to enter after Toby. Kyle was tall, with short hair and a neatly trimmed beard. Seeing Raphael, he frowned. The boy still held the dishcloth, standing by the counter. "Mr. Toby, who's this kid?" Kyle asked, approaching with a suspicious expression. "Don't tell me he's some relative of the old kitchen helper." Toby sighed and replied calmly. "This is Raphael. He spent the night here. Something unexpected happened yesterday. I found him in the rain with nowhere to stay. He cleaned the entire restaurant this morning, Kyle, believe it or not." Kyle crossed his arms, analyzing Raphael from head to toe. "And who guarantees he's not some street kid who'll bring us trouble? You know how things are, sir. The restaurant isn't doing well already. Bringing someone like this in could complicate things even more." Raphael, hearing this, lowered his gaze. He seemed cornered, like a small animal fearing expulsion, but said nothing. Toby raised his hand, motioning for Kyle to calm down. "I understand your concern, Kyle, but the boy hasn't given any reason for suspicion. He's trying to help. Look around. When was the last time you saw the floor this clean?" Kyle glanced around the room, noticing the difference. He shook his head, still hesitant. "It really is clean, but Mr. Toby." The restaurant owner approached, placing a hand on the waiter's shoulder. "Trust me for now, Kyle. This boy has no one. I just need some time to understand his situation." Raphael bit his lip and dared to look at Kyle with a sincere gaze. "I don't want to cause trouble, sir. I just needed a dry place to sleep. If I can help with cleaning, with whatever, I promise I won't cause any trouble." Kyle let out a sigh, relaxing his shoulders. Something in the boy's voice seemed genuine. "All right. Let's see how it goes. If Mr. Toby trusts you, I can try to trust you too. The boy gave a small, relieved smile. Thank you. The day passed slowly at the restaurant. Few customers arrived, just some regulars who hadn't been scared off by the rumors or the crisis. Toby tried to stay strong, serving the few customers with a professional smile, although the tension was perceptible in his wrinkles. Raphael, without getting in the way, continued to offer help with small tasks, bringing water, putting away cutlery, cleaning the kitchen counter again. Kyle, observing him, gradually relaxed and even taught him the best way to fold napkins into a fan shape, which distracted them both during a slow moment. Late in the afternoon, the wooden door creaked as it opened again. A young woman entered the restaurant. It was Anna, Toby's granddaughter, his only close relative. She was a nutritionist, with a round face and brown hair tied in a ponytail. Her eyes were attentive, and she carried a dark leather bag over her shoulder. "Hi, Grandpa," she said, smiling when she saw Toby behind the counter. "I stopped by to see how you are. Is everything okay?" Toby adjusted his glasses on his nose and smiled faintly. "I'm fine, Anna. Much better than yesterday, to tell you the truth. How are you, my dear? And work? Everything all right? I'm trying to adapt some new diets for patients with dietary restrictions. It's interesting. But I was worried about you, sir, after our last phone call. I thought I'd better come check," Anna explained, looking around and noticing the unusual cleanliness. "The restaurant is sparkling. Did you hire someone, sir?" Toby hesitated for a second, his gaze shifting to the back, where Raphael was sitting on a small stool near the kitchen, already tired from the day of small tasks. "Actually, not exactly, but, Anna, I need to introduce you to someone." Anna frowned, not understanding, and followed her grandfather to the back of the restaurant, passing through the kitchen and arriving at the little room where Raphael had previously slept. There was the makeshift bed, the worn mattress, the old blanket folded beside it, and Raphael sitting upright. Seeing the two enter, he gave a timid nod. "Who is he, Grandpa?" Anna asked suspiciously. "What's going on?" "This is Raphael," Toby said calmly. "I found him last night in the rain with nowhere to sleep. I let him spend the night here. He's a good kid. He cleaned everything to thank me. I decided he can stay a bit longer. He has nowhere to go." Anna's eyes widened. "Sir, you sheltered a stranger here in the restaurant? Do you know how dangerous that can be? What if something happens?" Toby sighed. He didn't want to argue, but he couldn't back down. "Anna, I know you worry about me, but the boy is alone, understand? He has no family, no one. He's just a child. It might be risky, but I'd rather risk it than leave him on the street." Raphael tried to stay quiet but felt he had to say something. "Ma'am Anna, right? I understand your concern. But I just needed a place to sleep. I have nowhere to go. I swear I won't cause any problems." Kyle, who had arrived in the hallway and noticed the tense atmosphere, decided to intervene. "Ms. Anna, I was worried at first too, but I saw how the boy behaved today. He helped, didn't complain, didn't touch anything of value. He's a good kid. It's true we don't know him well, but so far, there's no reason to fear the worst." Anna crossed her arms, looking at her grandfather, then at Kyle, then at Raphael, noticing his humble expression. Still, she didn't seem convinced. "And if something happens, Grandpa? We need to be careful." Toby raised his voice slightly, firm but without aggression. "He's staying, Anna. It's my decision. I can handle this." The young nutritionist huffed, letting out a sigh, but didn't insist further at that moment. Kyle tried to ease the discomfort. "He can help with whatever you need, Ms. Anna. I'll keep an eye on him myself. But I think Mr. Toby is doing what he thinks is right." Anna didn't respond immediately, just gave a short sigh and looked away at the boy, who remained quiet, trying not to worsen the situation. Silence settled in the small back hallway. The yellowish ceiling light cast their shadows on the clean walls. A few days had passed since Raphael started sleeping in the back of Toby's restaurant. Despite the uncertainties hanging over the establishment, things followed a relatively calm routine. Toby had opened early that morning, feeling a slight weight in his chest due to the still low sales, but he tried to maintain a firm demeanor. The street traffic was as usual, a few people coming and going. The smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the still almost empty dining room while Kyle arranged the counter to receive the first customers. It was then, without warning, that the door opened, and two men and a woman entered, wearing white coats with the health department emblem. Toby, holding a dishcloth, stopped immediately. Kyle, noticing the visitors, raised his eyebrows and straightened his posture, putting the towel aside. "Good morning, folks," Toby said, approaching. "Can I help you?" The inspector, a woman with a neutral gaze, gave a slight nod. "Good morning. We received a complaint about hygiene problems and lack of adequate conditions in your restaurant. We've come to verify." Toby felt a tightness in his chest. He knew there was nothing wrong, at least nothing to justify a complaint. The restaurant was clean, the kitchen in order, and he had always respected the regulations. But the shock came from the unexpected. He looked at Kyle, who returned a worried glance, and then firmly extended his arm, indicating the way. "Feel free. You can inspect whatever you like," Toby said, trying to remain calm. "I have nothing to hide." For half an hour, the health agents went through the kitchen, opened cabinets, checked stocks, analyzed the freezer, shelves, and expiration labels. Kyle followed them at a distance, nervous, while Toby tried to hide his anxiety by cleaning the already impeccable counter. Raphael, who had woken up earlier and quickly gone out to buy some bread with the few coins he had gathered, returned to the restaurant and noticed the strange atmosphere. He stayed in a corner, silently observing. When he saw Toby worried, he approached. "Is everything okay?" Raphael asked quietly. "Health inspection," Toby replied dryly but without harshness. "They received a false complaint, by all indications." Raphael frowned. "A false complaint? Who would do something like that?" Toby shook his head, looking at the street through the window. He wouldn't take long to discover who was responsible. He strongly suspected the other restaurant on the corner, a place called the Flavor Nook, whose owner, Lucas, had been making malicious comments. When the inspectors returned to the dining room, the man who seemed to be the team leader cleared his throat and faced Toby. "Mr. Toby, we've checked everything. We found nothing that compromises hygiene or food safety. The complaint, it seems, is unfounded." Toby let out a breath of relief. "I'm glad to hear that. I've always kept everything in order here." The female inspector agreed, noting something on her clipboard. "Unfortunately, we receive complaints that aren't always true. We apologize for the inconvenience." "No problem. Thank you for your work," Toby said, trying to be cordial, though indignant inside. The agents left, leaving a trail of dissipated tension. Kyle approached, scratching the back of his neck. "Those guys from the other restaurant have been saying things." "It was their setup," the waiter commented, his voice tinged with restrained anger. Toby just agreed, muttering something. Raphael, beside them, sighed indignantly. Shortly after, almost as if he had heard his name in thought, Lucas appeared at the door. He was a middle-aged man, light-colored dress shirt, combed hair, and an air of arrogance in his crooked smile. He entered without asking permission, his shoes tapping on Toby's well-swept floor. "Good afternoon, Toby. I heard the health department paid you a visit." Lucas's voice carried an ironic tone. Toby clenched his teeth. "Yes, Lucas. Funny, isn't it? They said the complaint was unfounded. But I bet you know something about it, don't you?" Lucas feigned exaggerated surprise. "Me, Toby? How could you think I'd do such a thing? Your restaurant is already doing so poorly. It seems it won't last much longer anyway." Toby's anger overflowed from his eyes. He clenched his fists, trying to maintain composure. "You're spreading lies because you're afraid, Lucas. Afraid of losing your customers to my seasoning, my honest food. You know my restaurant was once well known in the neighborhood. And if I get back on my feet, you won't stand a chance." Lucas turned serious, his jaw tight. Silence weighed heavily. Kyle and Raphael watched the scene, unsure if they should intervene. Lucas took a step forward, his face contorted with disguised anger. "Don't be ridiculous. Your time has passed. The neighborhood has changed. Customers no longer want your simple style. They want modernity. You can't keep up. Is that what you really think?" Toby retorted, forcing a sarcastic smile. "Then why bother trying to bring me down with lies instead of trusting your own talent?" The question hit Lucas hard. He clenched his fists, breathing deeply. He said nothing, just cast one last hateful glare and turned his back, walking away. The silence left behind was tense. Toby felt a pang in his chest, a strange pain radiating to his left arm. He tried to breathe, but weakness overcame his body. In a few seconds, his vision darkened, and he collapsed onto the dining room floor without uttering a single groan. "Toby!" Kyle shouted, rushing to his boss. Raphael's eyes widened, kneeling beside the elderly man. Calm down, calm down." He fainted. "He's not responding," Kyle said, his voice panicked. Raphael fumbled in Toby's apron pocket, finding his cell phone. When he turned it on, the first photo that appeared was of a smiling young woman. Anna, Toby's granddaughter. The first contact in the call list was hers. "I'm calling Anna," Raphael said, already dialing. The young voice answered on the other end. "Hello, Grandpa. It's Anna. This is Raphael. I'm at your grandpa's restaurant. He fainted. He's not well. You need to come quick." "What?" Anna responded, stunned. "What do you mean?" "I'm on my way." She hung up, her hands trembling. Kyle tried to keep Toby lying on his side, checking his breathing. They didn't know if they should call an ambulance. Fortunately, Anna arrived quickly, out of breath. Seeing her grandfather collapsed, she immediately took out her phone and dialed for help, requesting an ambulance. Shortly after, the siren wailed down the street, and paramedics entered the restaurant with a stretcher. They examined Toby, stabilizing him and rushing him to the hospital. Anna followed in the ambulance, holding her grandfather's hand, while Kyle and Raphael stayed behind, worried and unsure what to do besides pray silently that everything would turn out okay. At the hospital, after hours of uncertainty, the doctor gave Anna his verdict. "Your grandfather suffered a stroke. We'll keep him hospitalized. He'll need care and absolute rest. We can't predict the exact recovery time, but we'll do our best." Anna nodded, her eyes teary. Though shaken by the news, she was strong enough to face the situation. The next morning, very early, she returned to the restaurant. She entered through the main door, finding Kyle, a few employees, and an atmosphere quieter than usual. Everyone approached. "Folks," Anna began, trying to sound firm. "Grandpa will be hospitalized for a while. He had a stroke. I'll take care of things in the meantime." A worried murmur spread among those present. Kyle stepped forward. "I'm so sorry, Anna. Count on me for anything you need." Anna gave a small, grateful smile. "Thank you, Kyle. You all are essential now. She hesitated. "I've never managed a restaurant. My job is as a nutritionist. I know about food, but not about the daily operations here. I'll need everyone's help." The employees nodded affirmatively. Kyle, approaching a bit closer, placed a hand on the young woman's shoulder. "Don't worry. We'll show you how everything works. We'll keep things running until your grandpa comes back." Anna took a deep breath, relieved. "Thank you. I'm counting on you, Kyle." With that said, Anna went to the back of the restaurant, where the makeshift little room was. She found Raphael there, sitting on the edge of the old bed, his eyes downcast as if waiting for some news. Seeing her enter, he stood up. She approached, her hands clasped in front of her, visibly embarrassed. "Raphael," she began. I wanted to apologize. At first, I distrusted you. I thought it was dangerous to let you stay here. But you saved my grandfather's life. If it weren't for your quick thinking in calling me, I don't know what would have happened. Thank you. Raphael lowered his head and gave a small, shy smile. I understand, ma'am. You just wanted to protect your grandpa. I have nowhere to go, and he helped me. It was the least I could do. Anna touched her own arm awkwardly. You can call me Anna. Just Anna, please. And thank you, really. Despite everything, you proved you're a good person. At that moment, Kyle appeared at the door of the little room, knocking lightly on the wood. Sorry to interrupt, Kyle said, but I wanted to say, Anna, that Raphael is a hard-working and honest boy. When your grandpa was here, he helped a lot, cleaned the restaurant. You can trust him. Anna turned to Kyle and nodded, then looked back at Raphael. Thank you, Kyle. And Raphael, you can rest easy. You're welcome here. And thank you once again for everything you did. A few days had passed since the incident with Toby. At the hospital, the old man had shown slight improvement. He could already speak with less effort and even managed to smile when Anna and Raphael appeared. Still, the doctors had been clear. He would need to stay hospitalized for a while longer under observation before he could go home. Anna, worried, did her best to monitor her grandfather's recovery. Between visits, she kept the restaurant running, relying on Kyle's tireless help and Raphael's silent yet significant efforts. One afternoon, Anna decided to take Raphael to the hospital. The boy hesitated at first, somewhat uncomfortable entering that environment, but eventually agreed, thinking of Toby. When they arrived, they passed through white, silent corridors, the characteristic smell of disinfectant and medicine in the air. They found Toby's room with the door ajar. Anna knocked lightly and opened it, sketching a smile. Hi, Grandpa. I brought a visitor, she said, making space for Raphael to enter. Toby slowly lifted his head from the pillow, a smile blooming on his tired face. Raphael. Good to see you, kid. How are things at the restaurant? Raphael approached the bed, hands in his pockets, and smiled shyly. Hi, Toby. Everything's going well, I think. Anna's taking care of everything. Carl helps a lot. And well, I've been trying to help too. Toby nodded positively. I knew I could count on you all. And Anna, my dear, how are you? Anna pulled up a chair, sitting near the bed. I'm fine, Grandpa. I'm managing the restaurant as best I can. Funny, I never imagined I'd be in charge of your kitchen one day, but Kyle has been a great guide, and Raphael. Well, he's not just a good kid, he's become part of the family there. Hearing this, Toby's eyes narrowed, emotional. This boy reminds me of you when you were younger, Anna. Curious, willing to learn and help. Raphael, you could be my grandson too, you know. Raphael blushed, looking away at the bedsheet. Gosh, thanks, Toby. I don't know what to say. The old man laughed lightly, placing his hand over the boy's with an affectionate gesture. You don't need to say anything. The next day, back at the restaurant, Anna decided to have a serious conversation with Raphael. She waited for the morning rush to calm down, after the lunch peak, with the dining room already quieter. She called the boy to a table in the corner. Raphael, I need to talk to you about something. She kept her voice low, careful. He frowned. What is it, Anna? She took a deep breath. You know I like you very much and I'm grateful for everything you did for my grandfather. But we can't go on like this forever. You're very young. You should be studying, having a normal life. Raphael lowered his gaze to the tabletop. I understand. I know I can't stay here forever. But I have nowhere to go. My father and mother. They kicked me out. I can't go back there. Anna lightly touched the boy's hand. I know. That's why I'm going to call Child Protective Services. They can help you find a safe place where you can study. I don't want you living here in the back of the restaurant. It's not fair to you. Raphael felt a tightness in his chest but didn't protest. Okay. Can you just wait until Toby comes home before you do that? I wouldn't want to leave without saying goodbye to him properly, without seeing him well. Anna thought for a moment and nodded. Yes, I'll wait. But when he comes home, I'll have to call the authorities. It needs to be what's best for you. Raphael agreed, his voice choked. I understand. The days went by. The routine at the restaurant was demanding, but Anna no longer felt the initial weight. The intense work, the conversations with Kyle about recipes, purchases, menus, all of it engaged her more than she had imagined. She found herself swapping her nutritionist's coat for a kitchen towel with a certain naturalness. Kyle had an infectious good humor, always ready with a light joke or a practical suggestion. Under his guidance, Anna better understood the daily flow of the place. Peak hours, suppliers, delivery problems, customer complaints. Little by little, she felt increasingly confident. Raphael continued to be discreet but helpful. Even though he wasn't an employee, he helped clean, arrange tables, check some stock. He talked with Anna about the menu, about the seasoning Toby used to use, and listened attentively to Kyle's stories about the times when the restaurant was always full of people. And whenever he could, he visited Toby with Anna, monitoring the old man's slow but consistent improvement. After a time that seemed longer than it really was, Toby was discharged. He was still weak, and the doctor recommended absolute rest at home. No returning to the restaurant anytime soon. Anna arranged everything to receive her grandfather at her residence, ensuring he had ready-made food, medicine on hand, and a calm environment. Raphael was happy to see him out of the hospital but was wary of what would come next. Late in the afternoon, after leaving her grandfather, Anna returned to the restaurant. Kyle and Raphael were there, organizing some things in the dining room. The tense moment arrived sooner than Raphael expected. Raphael, we need to talk, Anna said, more serious this time. He understood immediately and just nodded. Now that my grandfather is home, as promised, I'm going to call Child Protective Services. They'll assign a social worker. It's the best I can do for you. Raphael felt an invisible punch to the stomach. Okay. I already knew this was going to happen. Anna saw the sadness in the boy's eyes but said nothing more. That was the most correct solution under the circumstances. 2 days later, a social worker appeared at the restaurant. She was a calm-looking woman with a polite smile and simple clothes. Anna received her at the front while Kyle and Raphael watched from afar. So, Anna, you explained Raphael's situation to me over the phone, the social worker said, looking around. He was abandoned by his parents, correct? Yes. They kicked him out of the house. We took him in here, but it's not a suitable place for him. He needs a home, school. I spoke with him, and he understands. The social worker nodded seriously. In that case, we'll take him to a group home. It will be a temporary, safer place while we sort out the bureaucratic part. And his parents will be investigated for child abandonment. It's standard procedure. Anna agreed, her voice failing a little. I understand. She called Raphael, who came slowly, as if carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. Behind him, Kyle approached, and Toby, though still weak, also appeared, leaning on a cane, insisting on being present for the farewell. The social worker looked at the boy with an understanding expression. Raphael, come with me. There, you can go back to school and have a better future. He didn't protest, just looked at Anna, his eyes teary, then at Kyle, who swallowed hard, and finally at Toby, who tried to smile but couldn't hide his sadness. Raphael hugged Anna. Thank you for everything. I know you only wanted what's best for me. Sorry for causing trouble. Raphael, Anna murmured, her voice choked. Don't apologize. You didn't cause any trouble at all. He hugged Kyle, who patted the boy's back, unable to say anything. And finally, Toby received the longest hug. Thanks for being like a grandfather to me, Raphael whispered. Toby closed his eyes, holding the boy affectionately. You'll always be welcome here, Raphael. The social worker indicated the exit. Raphael slowly let go, gave one last look at the restaurant, and followed. In the silence that settled, Anna couldn't hold back her tears. She looked at the floor, wondering if she had done the right thing, while Kyle placed a hand on her shoulder. Toby, with his cane, stared at the door through which Raphael had departed, saying nothing. In the days following Raphael's departure from the restaurant, an uncomfortable silence hung in the air. Anna and Kyle missed the boy, a void difficult to explain. Even while focused on work, it was impossible not to remember Raphael's soft voice asking if he could help with the dishes, arranging chairs, and cleaning the dining room. The atmosphere wasn't the same. Time passed, customers came and went, but that sparkle the boy brought to the place was missing. One afternoon, after the peak hours, Kyle was looking at the corner where Raphael used to sit. Anna, collecting some cutlery, noticed her friend's gaze. "Thinking about Raphael?" Anna asked, forcing a smile. Kyle, without taking his eyes off the corner, just nodded. "Yes. I miss him here." She sighed, placing the tray on the counter. "Me too." Then, as if she had made a decision, Kyle turned to Anna. "Look, I visited him yesterday." The statement took Anna by surprise. "You did? At the group home?" "Yes. I couldn't stay away. I wanted to see if he was okay," Kyle said, somewhat embarrassed. Anna approached, curious. "And how was he?" Kyle gave a sad smile. "He was happy to see me. I don't think he expected it. I told him a bit about the restaurant, that things are calm. He asked about your grandfather." Anna looked down, fiddling with her fingers. "Grandpa still can't go out much, but maybe when he's stronger, he'll visit him." The following week, after Kyle mentioned again that he would visit Raphael, Anna decided to accompany the waiter. When they arrived at the group home, the friendly and curious staff asked if they were a couple. Anna and Kyle laughed, a bit embarrassed, and said they were just good friends and colleagues. I see. But you two look good together," one of the caregivers said, winking as she guided them to the yard. Raphael ran to them when he saw them. He was thinner but seemed to be holding up. They talked about trivial things, about the restaurant, and Anna brought some homemade sweets for the boy. The boy's smile warmed the hearts of both visitors. For an instant, the longing for the full restaurant, for Toby's laughter, for Raphael's presence, everything seemed to soften. In the following weekends, a routine was established. Anna and Kyle went to the group home together, talked with Raphael and the caregivers, and brought small tokens. Sometimes Anna brought a different natural juice. Other times Kyle told jokes or funny stories from the restaurant's past. The caregivers continued to joke about the supposed couple, which always caused laughter and lightened the mood. When Toby recovered enough to leave the house, visits to the group home had to coincide with the old man's delicate condition. He was at home but very weak. He could speak with difficulty but maintained a sparkle in his eye, knowing that Anna and Kyle were taking good care of the restaurant and that Raphael hadn't been forgotten. Months later, Toby's condition worsened again. This time, he couldn't go out to visit Raphael. So, with heavy hearts, Anna and Kyle went to the director of the group home and asked for permission to take the boy out for a day. They explained the situation, said that the old man who had taken him in was very ill and wished to see him. The director pondered but eventually understood and authorized it. It was a special case. "Raphael, we managed to get permission for you to see Toby," Anna said, clasping her hands, her voice soft. The boy's eyes widened. "Really? Is he very sick?" Kyle placed a hand on Raphael's shoulder. "He's weak, but he really wants to see you." Raphael agreed, pressing his lips together. "Then let's go, please." On the agreed day, the three went to Toby's house. Upon entering the room, Raphael felt a pang in his chest. The old man was pale, thin, with deep dark circles under his eyes, but he still managed a weak smile upon seeing him. "Raphael, boy." His voice came out almost a whisper, but with tenderness. Raphael approached the bed, pulled up a chair, and sat beside him. "Hi, Toby. I missed you." Toby slowly raised his hand, and the boy held it carefully. I missed you too, Raphael. I needed to see you, to tell you you're a great kid. You're like a grandson to me. Raphael's eyes filled with tears. Toby, thank you for everything. You helped me when no one else did. Anna and Kyle discreetly stood back a little, giving the two space. They talked for hours. Toby told stories from his youth, spoke of recipes he liked to invent, and Raphael listened to every word as if memorizing everything. When night fell, it was time to take Raphael back. He said goodbye with a tight hug, promising to cherish every memory of Toby. The next day, the news arrived. Toby passed away peacefully during the early morning. The restaurant didn't open that day. Instead, everyone gathered at the funeral. Anna's eyes were swollen. Kyle tried to support her, and Raphael cried non-stop. He had lost someone he considered family. As people gathered, Raphael glanced into the distance and recognized a face inside a car. It was Lucas. The man was sitting at the wheel, observing the scene with a cynical smile. Raphael felt his blood boil. This was cruel. The boy approached the car with firm steps. Anna didn't notice immediately, but Kyle saw Raphael walk away. Raphael stopped in front of the car's open window. What are you doing here? Go away. There's nothing for you here. Lucas raised an eyebrow. Ah, the street kid. Came to see the old man fall. Now this restaurant won't come back, will it? One less competitor in the neighborhood. Anger exploded. Raphael lifted his leg and, in a sharp kick, broke the car's side mirror. The noise was loud, attracting attention. Lucas got out of the car, furious, cursing. Anna, startled, ran to them, realizing the commotion. What's going on, Raphael? Anna shouted. Lucas gestured indignantly. This brat broke my mirror. You're going to pay, girl. You're going to pay for your protégé. Anna tried to remain calm. She took money from her pocket, enough to cover the damage. Here. Lucas. Take this. It pays for the mirror and the labor. Now, leave. Lucas, with the money in hand, was still fuming but had nothing more to do. He got into the car and drove off, casting a bitter look. Anna turned to Raphael, her voice tense. That's not how you solve things. You shouldn't have done that. Raphael lowered his head, crying. Tears streamed down his face, his nose red, his body trembling. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Anna. It's just that I miss him so much. Toby. He was so good to me. I couldn't stand seeing that man laughing at everything. Anna bit her lip, holding back her own tears, which now flowed freely. I miss him a lot too, Raphael. She hugged him, pressing him against her, letting the tears fall unceremoniously. The boy soaked her shoulder with his muffled sobs. Kyle, standing a few steps away, also had teary eyes but chose not to interfere at that moment. It was an embrace full of absence, of pain, but also of affection, something that united them in the loss of someone so dear. The following days were grey with sadness. The void left by Toby seemed to permeate every corner of the restaurant. Anna walked through the corridors, the kitchen, by the tables, feeling her grandfather's absent presence in every detail. Now she was the definitive manager of the place. There was no longer the hope that Toby would return to resume his post, nor those quiet conversations full of old stories he used to offer in his spare time. Even loving what she did, nutrition, cooking, interacting with customers, Anna missed the figure who had inspired her to move forward. Kyle also carried a silent melancholy. Previously smiling and always making jokes, he now concentrated on his work with doubled diligence. He continued as a waiter, serving tables efficiently, but also helped Anna with management, giving suggestions, taking care of stock, and liaising with suppliers. He did everything he could to lighten the load that had fallen on her shoulders. Anna noticed his effort, the restrained affection in every gesture. She began to observe him more attentively, every kind word, every understanding look. She realized Kyle was a rare man, someone who was always by her side, supporting her when she needed it most. One night, after hours, The restaurant was empty, and Anna was observing the tables, feeling tired and nostalgic. That's when Kyle approached, a dishcloth hanging on his shoulder. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice soft, his eyes full of concern. Anna looked up. "I miss him, Kyle. My grandfather. I don't think I'll ever get used to it." Kyle came closer, stopping beside her. "It's normal to miss him. He was too important, not just for you, but for all of us." Silence hung in the air, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Anna felt a different warmth in her chest, a tightness that didn't hurt but enveloped her. Her heart beat faster, and in the days that followed, she felt the same growing warmth when she looked at Kyle. It didn't take long for the feeling to become obvious to both of them. They found reasons for long conversations after closing, for brief touches of hands when passing by. The complicity, once purely professional, was becoming something deeper. A few weeks later, late one afternoon, Kyle invited Anna for a walk by the seaside. The sun was setting slowly, painting the sky in orange hues. They walked barefoot on the sand, feeling the salty wind on their faces. At one point, Anna stopped and looked at Kyle. "I think I'm falling for you," she confessed. He smiled, holding her hand. "Me too. Come with me." They kissed there, with the sea as their witness. From that moment on, they started dating. It was recent, but it made sense. Those months working side by side, facing losses and challenges, revealed what they truly meant to each other. It wasn't long before the subject of Raphael came back to the center of their conversations. The boy, now 14, continued to live in the group home, but Anna and Kyle visited him frequently. They enjoyed strolling with him, talking about life, telling stories about Toby and the restaurant. During one of these walks by the seaside, the same place where they had declared their feelings, Anna plucked up the courage to share an idea that had been on her mind for some time. "Kyle, I know this might sound crazy, but I'm thinking of adopting Raphael." To Anna's surprise, Kyle's eyes lit up. "Crazy? I don't think so. I've been thinking about it too. I want to adopt Raphael with you." Anna blinked. Emotional. "But we're just dating. What if it doesn't work out?" Kyle stepped forward and held her face in his hands, smiling. "Then let's get married. What do you think?" She smiled through tears of joy. "Yes. Let's get married. And let's adopt Raphael." They kissed, laughing at their own boldness. Their hearts told them it was the right thing to do, even if everything seemed a bit rushed. Life, after all, had been full of surprises up to that point, and this seemed the most natural decision in the world. Sometime later, with everything thought out, Anna and Kyle went to visit Raphael at the group home. He was growing visibly taller, his voice a bit deeper, but still with that delicate way of speaking and smiling. They sat on a bench in the yard while some children played in the background. "Raphael," Anna began, holding Kyle's hand, "we have something to tell you." The boy frowned, curious. "What is it?" Kyle cleared his throat. "Well, we didn't just come here to see you. We came to make a very special invitation." Anna looked into the boy's eyes. "We want to adopt you. We want you to be our son for real." Raphael's eyes widened in disbelief. "You're kidding, right?" Anna smiled, shaking her head no. "It's serious. We want you to live with us, to form a family." Raphael lowered his head, tears streaming before he even tried to hide them. He was silent for a moment, absorbing the news. Then slowly, he stood up and hugged Anna and Kyle at the same time, an awkward and emotional embrace. They held each other tightly, and soon the caregivers from the group home, who were watching from afar, also began to cry. It was a moving and genuine scene. Days later, with the paperwork and legal procedures underway, Raphael was living with Anna and Kyle. He adjusted so naturally to their home that it seemed he had always been part of their family. He helped around the house, was organized, and one day, while tidying some old boxes in the attic, he found something that looked like a treasure. An old recipe book belonging to Toby. The yellowed pages, Anna's grandfather's neat handwriting, were preserved there on paper. "I found this," Raphael said, showing the book to Anna and Kyle, his eyes shining. "It looks like it belonged to your grandfather." Anna took the book carefully, emotional as she recognized her grandfather's handwriting. Kyle let out a low whistle. "This is pure gold." Toby's recipes. Many of them he made when the restaurant was at its peak. They took the book to the restaurant's chef, an experienced cook who worked with them. After a few tests, they began to introduce the old recipes to the menu. The impact was immediate. Old customers returned. New ones arrived curious. The restaurant, once struggling, now thrived, attracting more people each week. Across the street, Lucas watched the activity with envy. With the revival of Toby's menu, his own restaurant suffered. His clientele dwindled. Anna, Kyle, and Raphael were happy, working together at the restaurant, studying, cooking, laughing, and learning to be a family. One night, after dinner, Anna asked Raphael if he missed his biological parents. The boy was silent for a moment. "I'm grateful they brought me into the world, but I don't miss them. As far as I know, they continue to live the same way they did before. Nothing happened to them for abandoning me. But you know, I don't feel angry. Deep down, if it weren't for all that, I wouldn't have you guys, the amazing parents I have today." Anna felt a sweet ache in her chest and said nothing, just smiled tenderly while Kyle gently squeezed the boy's shoulder. They knew nothing could change the past, but the present and the future were there, and this was the family they had built together.